Okay, welcome to the Soul-Led Revolution with me, your host, Yolandi Boshoff, and I'm very excited today to introduce you to Katie Brockhurst. So Katie is, oh my goodness, she is like a social media pioneer. Katie's been on social media before any of us even knew what social media was. And I'm so excited to have you on the show. She's written some amazing books. So this is basically how I got to know Katie, was through her book, Social Media for a New Age. She's written 2 books, and they're really very much about like how we interact with social media, different strategies, the future, what it holds, all of that type of stuff. And I'm also part of Katie's membership. So we're going to talk today a little bit about what Katie does and just get her to share a bit more about social media, because for me, there's so many new ways of us interacting with it, and also as soulful beings, how do we interact with it? So Katie, please introduce yourself, babe.
Yeah, I mean, that was a great introduction. But I've been playing with social media kind of since I was a teenager. I used to like queue up with the kids at school to get in just to speak on the network computers. Like, it always fascinated me, and got involved early using MySpace and doing podcasting before people were podcasting and all of that. So it's just always been a natural progression with me. But that's also led, I would say, particularly in the last 2 or 3 years, to like a love-hate relationship with it as well. It was always a love-love relationship for me.
Yeah.
And then when I saw how the social networks were using us, really, you know, and abusing us to a degree, through surveillance capitalism, through addictive design, that sent me in a different direction with it. And I feel like my work is as much now about not only how do we use it from a soulful and spiritual perspective and in a way that doesn't take over our lives, but also how do we have the power around how we're using it? How do we not succumb to the addictive design? And how do we still use this as a tool, but not be used by it? So yeah, it's been an interesting journey.
I love that. And so I find with your work, and what's been really interesting being part of the membership for me has been about the education side of things, because, you know, we kind of like, I don't know, I'm a bit like a sheep when it comes to these things, and I'm like, oh, look, it's Facebook, and I'm in there and I'm doing my thing. And then eventually you catch yourself for hours on that phone, staring at that screen with your Insta going and all of that, and just literally losing yourself. So like, what was the point there for you where you went, oh shit, there's something here that doesn't feel right? This thing is like designed in a way that is addictive. Like, where did that all come out for you?
Gosh, I'd just finished, I think, the first draft of my first book, and the Cambridge Analytica scandal happened. Okay. Where we found out that there were agencies that were, I mean, it's a horrible term, but was scraping our data. And we're then using it to try and change our behavior. Sure. And when I then dove into that, I learned about addictive design, and I found out about how we could be manipulated without us even realizing it at that subconscious level. And that social media, although it was this amazing thing that was allowing us to connect and communicate with one another, it was being used by other forces for less, positive outcomes. And so that was my big wake-up call. Yeah.
And I just wanted the addictive behavior side there, because that always fascinated me. And I know I've had discussions with you about it, but I think it's something that not many people are aware of when they start, looking into this. So, and just for the listeners, just so that they can get a sense of like what's actually happening when you're there and you keep scrolling. What is happening physiologically, psychologically? Just giving us a little bit of insight into that.
Yeah, well, what they've worked out is how to hack us essentially. And they use that through dopamine. And so, in the same way as when you maybe are in a casino and you pull down on the slot machine and it spins, the reason that that's addictive for people is because it's based on variable reward. And so you could get 1 or 2 or 3 different combinations, and that creates dopamine in the body. So when you pull down and refresh your feed, or even you're just hopping from app to app, what you're actually doing on a physiological level is you're hunting for dopamine. And so we can get caught in that cycle of hunting for that on a subconscious level. We've also got oxytocin as well, that feeling of connection that comes through, someone liking our stuff or someone writing a really beautiful comment. Obviously, they're really nice things. But again, what the social networks did was they saw how in society there's like a framework called linking and ranking. I mean, you probably heard me talk about this, but one is like ranking is where we rank each other. Like you're friends with someone who's well-to-do and got a posh car outside the house, that ranks you in a certain position in your local environment. And what they did was they hacked that on social media as well. And so that's why the big follower numbers, and if a celebrity shouts you out or whatever it might be, we're playing to those same mechanics. So we're taking what has worked in the physical world and they're using it in the digital world, but they're using it to capture our time and attention and data. Those are their main 3 things that they want to do, because that creates profit. So everything is designed, and you've got to think about how much money these platforms have and how well they know us, because they've got like 20,000 data points on each of us minimum. So they know us better than we know ourselves. I mean, really. And so this is where surveillance capitalism has gone. It's gone into like a predictive. So they're able to predict what we might want to be able to do. So they literally are able to just keep us there.
Like the hamsters in the little wheel, and that really freaks me out.
Yeah, me too.
And so from your side, like in terms of what you teach people, and like, because for me, like when I got that awareness, when I learned these things from you, and I was like, oh my God, like how much time am I spending here? And like how much of my energy is going into this thing that is literally just milking me, like for no good reason. But like for people like listening, so what is your top tips? I mean, like in terms of like, how do we shift ourselves out of that space? What can we do to get back into the well-being side? Because I mean, like you always say, like these things lead to burnout, and like, we just get into these spinning cycles of doing this. So what would you suggest for people listening? Like, how do we get out of this? What do we change within ourselves?
So one of the big things is about creating space from your device in lots of different ways. So, I mean, from a more practical day-to-day basis, it's like not having your phone in your bedroom at night, like buy an alarm clock, don't use your phone, leave your phone downstairs. Having your phone on do not disturb mode when you've got things you need to concentrate on, because it will, even just the presence of a smartphone on the desk and you're trying to do some work, reduces your capacity to do deep thinking or be creative. So it's like creating loads of space from that device. And if you're using it for your business, which is where I, working with people who are like, okay, so I don't really want to be on Instagram and Facebook all the time, but I have to use it for work. Then it's like create away from the device, still create, but have specific time for creating, and then upload that and distribute that through a third-party platform, so that again, you're not going every day, oh, I've got to post something to Instagram today, oh, what am I going to, because then you'll just be sucked into it for an hour or 2.
Yes. And that energy is so draining. I mean, for me, it's always just like, I just want to go in and almost get out, like, since I've had these interactions with you, because it was just, I didn't realize how much time I was spending there not doing anything and stopping my creativity. And I think that's the one thing that I want to speak about today as well, is like that creativity that is being almost like the life is being sucked out of it because our energy is going there.
Yeah.
So for you, like what, like that creative space, what are you doing to nourish that? Like, because I mean, your work has shifted a lot since I've gotten to know you.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, I would say having time in the diary for creativity, it's like a muscle, you know, like over the last few years, I've been on a fitness journey, and I feel like it's the same with creativity. Like if you don't make a routine out of it, if you don't have those things where you're consistent with it, you're not practicing, you're not strengthening that muscle. So I find like actually having time every week in my diary for my creative time really, and I have it at the start of my week, so then it fuels me for the rest of my week as well. And I just find that that's a way to stay consistent, and also to work in like seasons and cycles as well. Like this whole idea we've got to show up on social media all year round, I just say is, you know, not true. And actually it's like I think it's nicer if you rest things. It's like we have seasons for a reason. So to rest, I'm in a rest period with my Instagram at the moment, and but it's firing me up to want to be creative, to come back. So again, when we take space and we allow for these ideas, it just allows for that creativity to grow. And I think creativity is so important for our brains and for our health as well.
And I think that for me is always interesting, because I went through a long spell in my life where I was like, I'm not creative at all, like I can't create anything. And then it was like all of a sudden, like one day you realize, but we're all creative. There's this spark, you know, we might not all be painters or whatever, but you could be a writer, or you could be someone who creates like amazing products or whatever it is. And like just getting back into that space when you're out of this like rat race, right? This like constant movement of like, it needs to be like this. And that for me is really like quite interesting, how we can explore that. So I want to talk about the concept of space, because I know like you've shifted a lot with your work in so let's do it, like let's get into, because you spoke a lot when we first met about the town square, and just explaining that concept, and then like where you see all of this going into the future, because a lot of what Katie does is she speaks about the future and like where we're heading in terms of what social media is creating and what digital's creating. So just give us a little bit of insight into that.
Oh, there's so many little ding, 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 dings around this one. Well, so firstly, I think one of the important things is that what we haven't realized is that social media, when we enter these places and spaces online, we're entering them with our energy and with our consciousness. So starting to reframe and shift how you see digital spaces that you spend time. So there was an article that Mark Zuckerberg did 2019, where he talked about the future of social networking being a shift from the town square to the living room. And what he meant by that was a shift from the news feed into maybe groups or messenger chat groups, that kind of thing. But when I took that away, I took the concept way further, and I was very much like, oh, town square and living room. And I could feel like my body, like stuff in my body started moving. And I was delivering a workshop this week, and I was talking about this town square to living room, and I was like, think about it, when you go into Facebook or you're going into Instagram, you're entering the town square. And someone was like, I would never go in a town square 20 times a day. And it's like, exactly. If you start to think every time you go into Instagram, you're going into the town square, like energetically, what do you know? One of the things that I learned in my studies was, you know, emotional contagion through social media is a real thing. So if you've got a big, you know, we've had a lot going on in the world the last couple of years.
Huge.
And so where you enter into these spaces, the town square, the town hall, where everyone is and where everyone's expressing their emotion, and quite often some of it they're expressing trauma, some of it they're expressing other things, and we're in there and we're just scrolling past it and we're picking up all of their emotions, I mean, you can understand why we're burnt out, right?
Yeah,
Got
totally.
someone's trying to sell you something over here, someone over here on a wonderful holiday, and you haven't been on holiday for 2 years, and that makes you feel a bit terrible. And you've got a celebrity wearing a lovely new outfit. Oh, you know, it's just like you're just navigating like all of these energies and all of this stuff. Then I was like, okay, so town square to living room, really, we need to have a strategy where we have a strategy for the town square that really considers our energy. How do we still show up in the town square? Because we need to, if we want to share our work and our words and our ideas and wisdom and art and all of these things with people on a wider basis. And isn't it incredible that we can reach people all over the world in the way that we can? It's incredible. But we need other spaces. And we need safer spaces. We need, you know, and I think what we've seen with Zoom and what we've seen with all of these things, to me, these are all living room spaces. But I think we can create those online where we're not navigating the town square at the same time. That was always my problem with people running all these wonderful courses and then them having a Facebook group to accompany it for the community piece. It was like, I've still got to navigate the timeline and the notifications. And it's like an assault course just to get into that living room space. And it's like, oh, actually, like, can we just have like a gentle lane through the country to a nice place with a roaring fire where we can just sit and chill out.
I love it.
With one another. So it's like just reframing the spaces where we are. And so then it's like, okay, well, where do I want my content to live? Where do I want to have conversations? Do I want them all in the noisy town square that's owned by Facebook? And the other big thing, and everyone will have heard the word metaverse by now, but we've got to think about where the internet is going over the next 5 to 10 years. And if big tech have their way, it's going virtual and it's going augmented. So it will be a blended digital physical reality is the vision that they have, you know, and they are spending tens of billions on creating the metaverse. I mean, we've even got brands are getting involved, but everything will be, you know, I think before we came on, I told you that I'd watched the film Ready Player One, and that's set in 2045, I believe, and everyone's living in virtual reality rather than in physical reality. And I felt like that was like watching a potential timeline that we're on. Like that was like a documentary sent back from the future, for us to go down that, because I think we have to be really careful. So I think one of the things that I'm really passionate about over this next year, 2020, as we go into 2022, is where are we building different spaces outside of big tech? In the term, when I talk big tech, I mean Facebook, I mean Twitter, I mean Google, you know, the big guys, because they're censoring us. They're, you know, every other thing is an advert, everything is this, you know, there is surveillance capitalism. And it's just like, I'm a little bit like, how can we like slowly start to edge our way out? But, you know, and if we're edging our way out, where else do we grow? Where else do we build?
Exactly. And I think what I love about your work is also that you are investigating the potential opportunities for us to start edging our way out of that, because I just love how you describe that. It's just like running through this noisy place all the time. And like what we are searching for is that connection. Like we want our groups and we want to be able to sit together and feel safe. But you don't feel safe in those spaces because you go in and then you get sidetracked and, you know, you're off there and you're like, shit, I'm meant to be here, but I've been like derailed there. So for me, it's just like, so those other safe spaces that we're not aware of or that's up and coming and all of that, like your work focuses so nicely on that. So like just some ideas of places that people can start feeling into and things that they can start like just investigating and feeling what it feels like for them. That would be really cool.
Definitely. Mighty Networks is my favorite. been on there for a year now, and so I've deepened my commitment to that space for the coming year. And I like it because it's like going to a town and everyone's moving in, like, and everyone's got their own networks and their own communities, but we're all sat in the same space. And so the energy of all of those people feels really good. I do a guided visualization where we go to Digital Earth and we visit different platforms, and I've been doing it with people loads over the last 2 or 3 weeks because this is a big topic of conversation for people for next year. And someone saw Mighty Networks. It was like they were in a town and there were just lots of different buildings and everyone had their lights on and everyone knew that everyone was there, but they weren't all like getting in each other's way. And that's kind of how I feel with 90 Networks. It's like you've moved into a neighborhood and you know there's some really cool people down the road or next door, but we're not all scrambling over each other for everyone's attention or for this or that. It's like, okay, so I feel like you can be a lot more intentional in that space, that you choose to go, okay, let me think, I want to go connect in with Yolandi. All right, I'm going to go to Yolandi's space and see what she has. And so I was there, I've been there a year, and I had it as the social media for a new age club. But even the word club was, I don't know, it just didn't feel right anymore. And so I sat with it and like this, just, the word space. And I didn't realize you could have dot space. And so I was like, space. That's what it is.
Space, so, we need space.
We all need space. We need space from our device. We need spaces to go. So so I'm now really playing with that concept and playing with that, and I'm really excited for what I'm going to do there this next year. So I think that's a great one. The other one that's really catching my eye and many others, particularly in the spiritual well-being space, is Insight Timer. It's an app for meditations and talks. It's an audio app. It's free to download. You can sign up as a teacher and publish your own content on there. And again, you can, people can discover you in those spaces. So I feel like Insight Timer is a really nice one. Like, it just gentle on the nervous system. And because I get to see what everyone sees when they do the guided visualizations, I get to see like what people are seeing. And it's nothing but loveliness, both with Mighty Network and with Insight Timer. It's quite angelic, and lots of beautiful pinks and purples and things seem to be coming through, which is nice.
And I just say on that before you go, I just love the way that you do this, that you use like energy and like how people feel about stuff, and how, when we connect with the energy of something, because I think it's something we've forgotten that everything has got an energy, and I love how you're bringing that in. So I just wanted to throw that in, but go on.
So those are definitely like the two I've got they're the ones I'm thinking of spending more time with. If you're a fan of the written word, there's loads of places now, I think, that you can publish and share your articles where you can be discovered. There's medium.com. There's another platform called Vocal, which is an interesting one. And then Substack. I'm kind of quite like the idea of Substack, particularly if you really enjoy writing and like writing is your jam. You can build an audience around your writings through Substack as well. And then there are a couple of social networks that are springing up. This one I haven't signed up for yet, so I've not been in it. But I've seen, actually, I think we both liked a post where someone was talking about it, because I remember seeing you on it and I was like, Yolandi's here. And that's Unified, UNIFYD. And that's been set up by some guys who run like a mystery school and do spiritual courses, and they've created a social network. I think you have to spend $5 to join, it's $5 a month, because it's ad free and surveillance capitalism free. But I think that could be quite an interesting one to explore as an alternative, where there might be like-minded people. But I'm yet to go into that one yet. But I just think there's going to be more and more over this next couple of years. that spring up. So again, it's about tuning in to your own energy around these spaces, going and having a look. How does it feel? What do you see? What do you sense? Like, do you get excited? You know, do you feel fired up, or does it make you just want to run and hide? Like, you know, take your cues from your body.
Yes. And I totally love that, because I think that's one of the things that I keep on finding when I'm working with people. So it's like we've forgotten how to trust ourselves in making these decisions. And so, like, for me, the element of being able to educate people and talk about, like, these options are available to you, but you still need to take your energy in there. You need to go and make a decision and go, this feels good and this doesn't feel good.
And I think that's one of the big, because for a long time, I was a consultant, and then I did my coaching training in 2020. And although I was always wanting my clients to make decisions for themselves, I often always felt like I had to have the answers for everyone. And it's just like social media is evolving at such a speed, like how anyone can, I mean, yes, you can be an expert, but, you know, like I know I'm an expert compared to others because it's my field. But at the same time, all this stuff is brand new. So I'm learning it, figuring it out, you know, sussing things out as they emerge. And so it's just that invitation that we can all be doing that, and that no one can have the answers for you. It's always the answers in here, which is why I love doing the guided visualization stuff, because one platform might be great for one person but not for another. And I love the fact that we can diversify and go find our own spaces and places to be in the digital dimension.
Because it's so part, and I mean, the thing is, like, you know, as much as I like my inner hippie just wants to go and sit in a forest and be like, you know, invite everyone into my forest and we'll be fair, but we can't, because the world's a big place, right? And we want to speak to people, and people want to connect with people from all over. So these things are here for a reason, and a very good reason, but it is just about, like, how do we approach it and how do we connect with it? So I'm really grateful that you're, like, in that space of educating people to understand the energies of stuff, because that for me is vital, and we need to take our power back in that regard, I feel. Like, really, you know, take responsibility for what you're choosing, and, like, how does it make you feel? If it's making you feel shit, don't go there. You know?
And it's like that thing I talked about, like seasons and cycles, not thinking that we've got to show up 24/7. And we don't have to post every day, even on a platform like Instagram, which tells you have to post every day because of the algorithm. It's like the algorithm, and this is from Facebook's own press room, is personal, subjective, and unique, and the machine is learning from you. So if you decide to slow that pace down, it will slow down with you. And if we all chose to slow that pace down, it would have to learn from all of us, and it would adapt accordingly. So we have way more power than we think we do. Everyone's like, oh, the algorithm, but it's not true, you know?
Oh, I love that. And I think that also for me, it's just like when we need to start finding that balance. That balance is so important. Like you said, like creating space. And for me, that's like going to be really, like, so key. And I think for 2022, that's on my like to-do list. You know, I don't make New Year's resolutions, but I really wanted that whole thing of creating more space feels like so important at the moment.
How do you find social media energetically? What's it like for you?
Well, because I tend, like, I don't spend that much time, but I'm a bit more of an intentional poster. So I'll wake up in the morning, and morning's like my, you know, it's my creative time, and then I'll be like, oh, I want to write about this, and I quickly go in and I write something, and then I post, and that's it. Like, I'm done, right? So I'm not, I just, like, I go and I copy paste, and that it goes to all the different places. Or if I record a meditation, I put it out, and that's it. So I'm a dumper. Like, I go and I put my stuff there, and then I come back out, because I can't be in there. I find like all our that like imposter syndrome and like comparisonitis, all that shit just like keeps getting stirred up if you put your energy in there, and I feel it like really drains me. Also, I find it quite overwhelming energetically, so I'm literally dip in, dip out. That's always been my place with it. And especially
think about scheduling and and doing it that way.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm definitely, and that's also part of my, like, my whole automation, and like, it's more about scheduling. Like, when I want to write, and then it can go out to the world.
One of my clients recently, she was like, the bots are my friends. And it's just like, yeah, like the bots are our friends. Like, let's befriend the bots, like, as in, you know, the way that this automation works. Have it doing that job for us. I mean, that's what AI is. You know, there's so much that can be, you know, AI can be this incredible tool if it's working with us and for us. We've got to remember it, you know, it is artificial intelligence, and it can be faster and better and quicker, all sorts of things compared to us, because we're emotional, physical beings. So if we work as a team, we can achieve amazing things together. But what I feel has happened, particularly with the likes of Facebook Inc. or Meta, is that we're working for it. We're the product. We've become the product that's being spun into gold. So the bots aren't really our friends in that environment.
Exactly. But unless we take our power back and we choose how we interact, and we all, so I love that. Oh man, I wish I could speak to you for longer. Once, like, I'll just have to, like, in a few months' time we'll chat again, okay? Because there's so much to talk about in this space. So just as a last question, tell us a little bit about your membership before we go, because I know some people, for me, it's been really beneficial being in there. I've learned so much. So I just want you to share a bit about like what's in there if people feel that they want to join and get a bit more savvy about social media.
So I mean, I'm very much my latest research, my process, things that are coming up. I'll share videos and record videos about, you know, like either stuff I'm moving through or I'm seeing people move through around social media, or there'll be practices and visualizations and meditations. They also all get shared in the space. And there's usually like either a monthly video or a monthly PDF with some questions you can move through yourself, and some of the work that you can do with some information and some insight that supports you on your social media journey.
Love it. That's great. So people wanna connect with you. Where's the best place to find you online, and like where can they go?
I mean, socialmediaforanewaage.com is my website, and I have a monthly newsletter which goes out at the new moon, which will give you a feeling for me and my work. There's also my books. They're a great place to start as well, and I have one here handy. And then Instagram, I'm social media, KTK._social media angel. In fact, I can't remember my own handle, is telling you quite a lot, isn't it? and then
that's impressive.
The membership is socialmediaforanewage.space.
Okay, beautiful. So go check it out. I'm also going to put Katie's Instagram handle is in the description as well, so you can just go and check her out there. And then you can link to all of the websites and everything there. So Katie, thank you so much for your time. It was awesome talking to you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Okay, great. So have a beautiful day, and I'll see you guys in a couple of weeks again.